Hello friends, and welcome to another serving of Out to Lunch, the cheese course, in which I catch up with a previous Out to Lunch guest to see what they've been up to of late. Completely exclusive to you, dear subscriber. I spoke to my guest whilst he was in LA on his lunch break from talking to the world's media. We had De Bruno brothers send a selection of their finest cheese to my guest stateside, and I had a wonderful selection from Paxton and Whitfield in the UK. It's no surprise that everyone wants a piece of him. Recently, my guest starred in the BBC hit The Tourist, set in the Australian outback and about to hit the rest of the world courtesy of HBO. Plus, he's in Kenneth Branagh's critically acclaimed new movie Belfast, which is up for 6 Oscars. It is, of course, the wonderful Jamie Dornan. I've come to understand that if you're, have a forward-facing job, are pretty well known from Northern Ireland, you all know each other, or at least play golf. You've played golf with Paddy, haven't you?
Yes, I have. I was about to say I haven't.
What, in a game with James Nesbitt?
No, I've definitely played with Jimmy Nesbitt.
Hello, Jamie Dornan. How the hell are you?
I'm good, Jay. How you doing?
I'm very well. I think the thing that's quite funny is I don't believe anybody has eaten actual dairy in Los Angeles since about 1997. You're going to get some very difficult questions from the mass press that you're about to do this lunchtime. So let me throw you the hardest question of all. Jamie Dornan, do you like cheese?
I do. I love cheese. I think a lot of people are like this with cheese, where every time you indulge in it, you say to whoever you're with or to yourself, if you're eating it alone, I should do this more. As you get older, maybe I'll indulge in it more. I heard something a few years ago that's really stuck in my head. Because I heard it from a medical professional, I'm taking it as gospel.
Yeah, take it seriously.
Take it seriously. Apparently as men, as they get older, our taste buds start to die quicker than women. And as a result, men seek out, as they get older, stronger, more vigorous tastes. So they'll start...
Do you know what I do for a living, Jamie? This is terrifying news.
I can't believe you. You obviously haven't been hanging out with enough medical professionals to have learnt this information.
So by the wonders of Out to Lunch, the cheese course, we have managed to get an LA-based cheesemonger to send you the same as I've got. So you should have a Moltinero with truffles, which is made in Sardinia. It's a sheep's milk cheese. One of those Swiss ones, I think it's Schennenbellhorn, which is a cow's milk cheese, and then Stichelton. Is that what you've got?
That's exactly what I have, yeah.
So why don't we start? All of these are pretty strong, it has to be said. Should we start with the Schennenbellhorn, the Swiss one?
I'm glad you said that. That's the one I'm currently battling to open with a knife here.
Well, good luck with that. It's Alpine style, added cream. It has a bit of a Comté thing going on with it. It's lovely. So you're about to do a lot of press today, and I presume a lot of it is to do with Belfast, the film you've made with Ken Branagh. You've had an illustrious career to this point, but I have to ask, when you get the call from Kenneth Branagh saying, would you be in this film, is it a little bit like graduating?
You know what it felt like, Jay? It felt like a mistake. It's what it felt like. It felt like he had me mixed up with someone else because before I spoke to him, I knew he wanted me. Before I'd even talked to him, he said I was the only person he wanted for it. So I was a bit like, I'm really confused. I was confused by the whole thing because I didn't know what I'd done that sort of warranted that want. But tell you what, like he'd actually amazingly seen all of the undergraduate stuff. He'd seen all the.
I regret using that term now.
No, I hear it.
I'll own it.
Oh my God, that is unbelievable. That cheese.
It's kind of adult, isn't it? But the key thing is that this was such a personal film for Branagh.
Yeah.
It's his sort of love letter to the city he started and left. Did that mean it was freighted with responsibility for you?
Yeah, I think you would believe that, and you're right to believe that. But it was kind of the opposite of that. It was strange. Like he really made us feel like we were in control of what we wanted to do with the roles instinctively. We're playing the most important people in his life. I got a 9-year-old boy playing a version of himself, someone playing his brother, his parents, his grandparents. And, you think that would be almost sort of paralyzing to be led by someone who is letting you portray these people so dear to him. But it was the opposite. He actually just gave us total freedom. And actually it was the most confident and free I've ever felt on a set. And there was never a case of him sort of trying to make us feel like we had to be very close to how his parents really were or his grandparents really were. It was very much like, you bring your own thing, I'll gently guide you, but I want you to instinctively portray it how you want. And, you know, for me, luckily, I'm in a movie called Belfast. I'm from Belfast. My dad was from Belfast. His dad before him and his dad before him. I'm a long line of men from Belfast. So it's what I am anyway. So it's not like I'm really having to dig around too much to get an understanding of these men.
I do have to jump in with a story which I only just read, which was the Irish Times critic Kevin Mayer.
Yep.
You know where I'm going with this. It's only because you talked about being from Belfast. Wrote a review of a James Dornan film, Nowhere Special, in which he said that James Dornan had done a better Northern Irish accent than you. So basically, you got slagged off in a review for a film you weren't actually in, accusing you of having a worse accent than a guy with a renowned, very nice RP. And did you email Mayer to say, what the hell are you going on about?
Yep, I did. There's one or two times in my life I've thought it's worth taking things into your own hands. He'd destroyed a film I'd done previously in the year. I don't think there was a lot of love from his direction towards me at that particular time. So then, you know, I'd heard about that movie. I was like, oh, read this. Suddenly my name's in there saying my accent isn't authentic or something like that. And then I got in touch with him via email. And I mean, I guess he said it in his thing, what happened. I just said, like, I didn't like that you said that. Recently, I've done a couple of things that he has liked. I've done Belfast, which he said was a masterpiece and gave it 5 stars. And then did The Tourist, which has had this incredible response in the UK. So now Kevin and I are all good.
Are you now mates?
Funnily enough, he lives round the corner from where we do in the Cotswolds. So we're now talking about taking our dogs for walks together and everything. So it's all water under the bridge.
Was the business of filming Belfast, as in going to Northern Ireland, was that special?
Yeah, funnily enough, we didn't really get to shoot much of it there. So we actually shot it. We built the set in Berkshire. Subsequently, we did a screening in November in Belfast, opening of the Belfast Film Festival.
How was that?
One of the most special nights of my life, truly. It was incredible. The response was unbelievably positive. I think this story and the way Ken has told the story is really important for people at home because it's a different lens to how Belfast has been portrayed in film before. It's a different take on how the conflict has been portrayed before. What Ken's done here is to show the beginnings of the Troubles through the lens of a 9-year-old boy and how it affects him and his just normal, hardworking, everyday family. It hasn't been seen before. And to all the normal, hardworking families who didn't ask for anything in Belfast are going, oh, right, this is good actually to see it from our point of view and change the narrative really of how people see that part of the world.
Have you tried the truffle cheese? It's a Muterno with truffles from Sardinia, matured for 60 days before the black truffle paste is added.
Wow. Oh, wow. Sorry, have you eaten that yet?
Hang on, I should. Why is it really full on? Oh, blimey. You get to play a father figure, paterfamilias. So this is obviously, and you know, I don't want to intrude in private grief. I know you lost your old dad in March of last year. Jamie was 73.
Correct.
You just landed in Australia pretty much, hadn't you, to go into quarantine before filming The Tourist?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, look, that scenario, that event, whatever way, shape or form it comes is horrendous to deal with. But it was particularly heightened, maybe, should I say, because of the situation we found ourselves in. I was 10 days into a 14-day quarantine in a hotel in Sydney with my wife, our nanny, 3 kids, and we were stuck inside. And Dad was dying, or you know, actually, to be honest, 24 hours before he died, we got good news and thought he was through the worst of it. It was like this roller coaster, awful situation for about a week, slightly more. And then when he passed, I still had 3.5 days left in quarantine. I had a chat with a medical professional about where my head was at, and it'd be great if I could even get outside and the sunlight and see. I was going to stay with a very good friend for a couple of days from Belfast actually as well, who was living out in Sydney. But they said no, so that was the worst day. I think that last day in quarantine, we woke up packed, we're all ready to go. I'm in an awful state of grief and had to stay in the hotel room all day until sort of 6 p.m. when they finally let us out, even though they probably could have let us out that morning. It wasn't fun.
When we were at the Guinea Grill, the full episode of Out Lunch, still available to listen to. And one of the subjects we talked about was grief. Obviously, you lost your mum when you were 16. There was the car crash with a bunch of your friends. And the grief is something you know too much about.
That's true. I wish I didn't know that much about it, Jay, to be honest, but that's just life, isn't it? I mean, we all have some understanding of grief. Some people less than others. Some people, their version of grief is losing a grandparent when they were 97 years old. For me, it's different. It's not something that I sort of, like, I'd rather I wasn't so experienced in it, particularly people, how close the people are that I've lost. But as my dad would always say, we are where we are, and this is it. Like, this is my situation, and I've a load of brilliant stuff and a load of stuff to be thankful for, but I've got some stuff that's not great too.
I'm always suspicious when people start to ascribe certain character traits to certain people from certain places, but stoicism is often talked about as a Northern Irish trait.
I think people from that part of the world have been through a load of shit. No matter how close to the sort of epicenter of everything going on back there, if you're from that part of the world, you have dealt with a ton of shit. That is a fact. Growing up in a conflict environment and then a post-conflict environment has an impact on you, whether you're going to throw that around or not, or admit that or not. What do you do? I've always been very forward thinking in my life, and my dad was a big advocate of that after mum died. And I remember talking about this when we did the main podcast about how you don't want the loss of your mother at that age to be the thing that defines you, and similarly now, having lost both my parents too soon, I've got to make the thing that defines me happen, so you can't look back on it.
Another guest that I had, Patrick Kielty.
What a great guy.
Because I've come to understand that if you're, have a forward-facing job, are pretty well known from Northern Ireland, you all know each other, or at least play golf. You played golf with Paddy, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
What, the game with James Nesbitt?
No, I've definitely played with Jimmy Nesbitt. I have played with Paddy out here in LA. I played with Paddy in LA. Paddy actually did the... He sort of compared our Q&A after our Belfast screening on November 4th. And it was probably the funniest he's ever been, actually. He was brilliant. He was very, he was poignant and emotional, but also hilarious. And I love Paddy. I've known him forever. He's such a good guy.
You have written various drafts of a screenplay, which also deals with the subject of grief.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an original story. Myself and another actor called Conor McNeil have written it. I think we've hopefully written our final draft. We've very, very exciting producers involved, and hopefully we get to make it at some point. It's an original story that came out of our heads, but often you do find yourself, when you're writing, putting in stuff that you have a bit of an understanding of. Our central character is grieving. It's one of those things that didn't really plan for that to be the case, and then it ultimately became the case. Yeah, and that's been quite a cathartic thing. There's definitely things that I could draw on my own experience to put into the script, yeah.
Do you enjoy the process of being in front of a screen and it's blank and you've got to write?
I have struggled to do it alone, and it's much easier when there's someone else. It just is,
Is there something that you want to create roles for yourself, or is it you have stories you want to tell?
I think more of the latter, stories I want to tell. I'm lucky. I'm in a position at the moment where great roles are coming my way, and I'm not having to go after them or fight for them too much. In saying that, we've written a great role for me in the movie. So also, there's a whole, when you take it out to get money aspect to that, my name, for whatever dumb reason, adds a bit of value there for the scale of movie we're trying to make. And so that all sort of factors into it.
You said, obviously, films come your way, and yet you chose... and I'm delighted you have, because I'm 3 episodes in of The Tourist. Mm-hmm. You chose a TV gig which required you to go, and I say this in the nicest, most polite way, to the arse end of Australia, to the bush, a hard place. I know you have this 2-week rule. You're not going to be away from your kids for more than 2 weeks. So they came with you. Obviously, that's why they were in Sydney. What was it that attracted you to what looks like an absolutely grueling shoot?
Well, listen, it truly was the most grueling shoot I have ever had. Obviously, the origins of it with what happened with Dad set the tone. It wasn't great start to everything. But then just physically demanding that role, those locations, it was a lot of proper graft.
Actually, there's 2 things I need to do. The first one is move you onto the Stitchelton. This is like greeting an old friend. I think it's fantastic cheese. So the tourist, for anybody who's so far somehow omitted to watch this, all of it in the UK is available on iPlayer at the moment, is a story of a Northern Irish man who is in a car crash and wakes up with no memory of who he is. And it's the unfolding of his personality and the story. It's plotted minutely. I do have to say, I don't know if you saw this, Dara O'Brien tweeted at one point, if they put your man's face on Northern Irish Twitter, they'd have nailed him in 30 seconds.
I saw a few of those sort of posts. I loved it because it just says everything about our humor, but also just like, it's so true.
Were you sent all of the scripts to read or just the early ones?
Yeah, so no, I think at the beginning I was just sent 1, 2, and 3, but I'd had big chats with Harry and Jack Williams, who created the show, about where it was going to go. And without spoiling it for you, because I know you haven't watched those episodes yet, it goes nowhere where you think it's going to go. I mean, I think that's been the appeal of the show and why it is done so well and been received so well and so many people watched it, is that you never get comfortable with it. When you think you have an understanding of what's going on, you're wrong usually. So it made for a very exciting read. And I think, to answer the previous question, that was definitely enough to bring me and my family out there. And it had a massive challenge to it. I thought tonally the way it shifts from sort of darkness and drama to comedy was really interesting. And it doesn't feel like a BBC show in many ways, in a good way. And I mean that with greatest respect to the BBC and everything they do, but it didn't feel like something they would take on. And I was really intrigued that BBC One were going to tackle it. So, we actually ended up having an amazing time out there. The Outback part of it, my family didn't spend that much time in the Outback, but we were based in Adelaide, which is a great city and a great city for families. So when I did the Outback stuff, I would just go out. It's 4 hours out of Adelaide. I'd go out, do my thing, come back. Not every day, but come back. I would come back every weekend and then they'd come out a bit. So we made it work.
You were grieving. Do you think that added to the kinetic nature of your performance?
It's a really interesting question. I have no idea.
Your character is wired.
That is true.
Certainly in the 3 that I've seen, and I'm not expecting him to relax any in 4, 5, and 6.
He definitely does the opposite of relaxing in those later episodes. It really goes to another level. The general sort of madness of his journey, I knew just needed a huge amount of energy from me, and I knew it was going to take a lot to get this performance pushed through really and make it impactful. I guess I was working off a lot of reserves at times because I was sort of exhausted, but then I think maybe there's something in that. Maybe you're right. Maybe I was driven by something else at times, and I don't know really what it was. Maybe I'll never know, but there's times I felt that I didn't have a great sense of what I was doing.
The character is sort of disassociated.
Yeah, and I think grief sometimes does that. You have a disattachment from people and places. So sometimes at work, I'd be like, Jesus, am I doing good work? Like, what is that? Like, I'm not here today. Like, maybe I'm really there. You know what I mean? Like, it was very hard to gauge. But luckily, the response to it's been class, and I sort of don't know is the ultimate answer to that.
Are you solely in LA for press, or are you shooting something else?
A couple of reasons. A ton of press for Belfast. Find myself in a unique to me situation where Belfast is in a lot of awards conversations, and it's all very exciting, and it's just easier. So much of it's happening in LA. It's much easier for me to bring my family here and not be flying. I think when we laid it all out from the top of the year to the end of March, they would have had me flying back something like 8 to 10 times, which is just lunacy, really.
Boy, that's
and
not
very
fun.
confusing for my family and everything. So easier to bring them out here. So we're all out here for press, but also my wife is, she's a film composer. She is doing a job here that starts here in February. So there are a couple of reasons to come out here. So it's worked out pretty well.
And your kids are a bit like Force's kids now. They're swapping schools and making friends.
Yeah, they made the best friends in Adelaide. Really, truly, they went to this amazing school. Yeah, like the Saturday before we came out to LA, our 8-year-old was on FaceTime for about an hour and a half of her friends in Adelaide. Potentially she'll never see these girls again, but she formed these like amazing friendships with these girls. Is incredible, really. And I think while they're still pretty young, moving them about doesn't seem too bad. But we won't be able to shift them around like this once the kids get a bit older. So we're sort of making use of it while we can do it.
Well, listen, thank you for taking the time and letting me foist cheese on you in a shameful manner.
This is amazing. I mean, honestly, and there's a lot left over for actually, as I was coming upstairs here to do this, my wife was like, should we just have cheese for dinner tonight? And I was like, I love you so much. Like, what a great idea. So we're going to finish this tonight. We're just going to have a plate of cheese for dinner and crackers.
Well, I'm delighted that I've catered your dinner. Thank you for allowing me to introduce you to the last bit of our time. We didn't get to a cheese course, I don't think, when we went to the Guinea Grill.
That's correct.
So we have made amends, and good luck with everything that comes up.
Thanks, Jay. I appreciate it. Thanks, man.